Welcome to today's guided practice session. Thanks for being here. Today we're working on some block chords. We're actually going to work on some locked hands voicings. And you can check out the PDF here in the description below. And as always, you can go to openstudiojazz.com for a deeper dive on everything we're doing. Today, everything we're doing is in a course I've already made called Block Chords Made Easy. And I thought we'd do a nice, fun, light on our feet practice session talking about locked hand voicing specifically, which is a certain kind of block chord. And I'm excited to work today. We're gonna do a bunch of cool stuff. And again, check out the PDF there in the description. Let's go. So today I wanted to do some just basic block chords, some basic locked hand voicings. These are 5-note voicings. This is an octave-based system. And there's a certain inspiration I got from this. Whenever I think of this style of voicing, I think of one specific recording. Now, this is a whole style of voicing, made famous, of course, by George Shearing, and several other pianists have incorporated this octave-based system, this 5-note locked hands-based system. But there's one recording in particular by the great Oscar Peterson Trio that I think of when I think of block chord basics. Now, there's nothing basic about what Oscar does with these, but it is the inspiration for what we're going to do today. We're going to cover just the basics of how to build some block chords, but really we're going to practice them. I'm not going to break it down too much. We're really just going to practice some different ways to do that. How are we going to do that? First, we're going to listen. We're going to listen to the inspiration for this. Oscar Peterson Trio live at the Stratford Shakespeare Festival playing How High the Moon. That'll be the first order of business. Then we're going to do a bit of block chord warm-ups. I have a couple of arpeggios queued up. I have a couple of scales based off of the 6 diminished scale. You might have heard of that if you've ever checked out any of Barry Harris's videos online. It's like the perfect way to build block chords if you want to voice melodies. So we'll do those two things. Then I have a block chord arrangement of How High the Moon. It's not like the transcription from Oscar's thing. That is not basic. But I have a basic version that's inspired by. So we can kind of check that out and practice it. And that is yours to keep here. Again, download the PDF. It's all good. And then we're going to go out today. I thought we could have a fun little listening session on the way out to listen to the rest of Oscar's solo on How High the Moon from the Stratford Shakespeare Festival recording. It's the baddest solo ever. I mean, it truly is. Like, even if you don't like Oscar Peterson, well, if you don't like Oscar Peterson, you're really not going to like this, because like people complain that Oscar Peterson is like the Jazz Olympics, right? It's just super athletic without any blah, blah, blah. But if that's the way you feel, then this is like that times a million. So you might not enjoy this. You might just turn out now if you don't dig Oscar Peterson, because we're kind of basing this all on that trio. And again, this is block chord basics, where we'll eventually get to How High the Moon. So let's get to it. Let's start with just listening to the trio. We'll hear like the first 90 seconds here of How High the Moon. This is again live at the Stratford Shakespearean Festival, excuse me. Herb Ellis, Ray Brown, of course, with Oscar Peterson. And let's check this out. Listen for the block chords. Listen for the locked hands. So all of that intro and melody was based around our locked hand voicing that we're going to work on today. Again, it wasn't the whole thing, but it was definitely sort of the featured element of not just the intro trading with Ray Brown, but even that melody. Oscar was playing these locked hand voicings mixed in with other things. And that's really kind of the goal, is this can be something that we have in our back pocket, but it doesn't have to be all the time, everything. And when we start doing it, we don't have to just do that. We can mix it in with our other styles of voicings and even single note line stuff. And like I said, this is like an octave based system. So this works really well when we want to go just to octaves. We can mix these in like some octaves within the chords, you know? So let's cover what we're talking about here. What is it exactly? What do we mean by locked hands? So what I mean is this particular shape. Let's look at the right hand here, the treble clef here. So I have this queued up. This is our first warm-up. This is going to be our block chord arpeggio warm-up. We're going to just go through an A minor 7, A minor 9, A minor 11 chord sequence. But let's look how we can build an A minor 7 chord first here. In our right hand, right, we have chord tones of A minor 7. I have the root A, I have the third C, I have the fifth E, and then I have the seventh G. That's just an A minor 7 chord. Now here's the important part. Whatever note is on top here of what we call four-way close voicings, which is this right hand voicing, whatever note is on the top of this chord, we play in our left hand on the bottom. So it's a weird imbalance, but actually it really works for grooving. It's 4 notes in the right, 1 note in the left. Now that doesn't have to be a hard and fast rule. Not all players do it like that all the time for sure, but this is kind of like where you would start, right? 4 notes in the right, 1 note in the left. I start with this arpeggio warm-up because I think this really demonstrates clearly what we can get out of the block chord voicings, and it also sets up our minor chords in a way that I think makes sense. Now, there's a ton of different systems we can do, but starting with our strong chord tones on the minor 7 chords, minor 9 chords, and minor 11 chords is a great way to sort of get into the sound. So let's play here what we have. So if we have here our A minor 7, that's the first voicing, right? C on the outside. Again, these are an octave device. Notice that all of these have an octave as the outside notes. Again, 1 note in our left, 4 notes in our right. We take this up the next inversion. Now we've got E on the outside, right? The 5th. We take it up another inversion. We've got the 7th, G on the outside, but the same notes are on the inside, right? It's all the same 4 notes so far. Now, we're going to kind of go outside of these 4 notes. We're going to go up to the 9. This is such a beautiful voicing. Listen to that. So I have B in my left hand, and my right hand has C, the 3rd, E, the 5th, G, the 7th, and then the 9th. So if we were to just stay within our inversions here, this would be A on top, which is an option. We can also move that outside note up to that 9th, and now we get this beautiful... Everything's covered there. This is almost like Peter Martin's jazz arpeggio that he talks about, but in block chord form. We can go all the way up to the 11th on our minor chords. That's why I have the minor 11th here. So here, on the first beat of bar 2, I have the 11th, the 5th, the 7th, and the 9th, and then the 11th again. Again, octave based, right? How gorgeous. This is going to set us up for How High the Moon later, by the way. That's why I chose A minor. It's the 2 chord of the key of G, which is what How High the Moon is in. Woo. Okay, let's practice this. Let's get to work. Get to your piano. I've got my handy metronome here. 60 beats per minute. Nice and slow, nice and easy. One thing when we practice this, especially when we're starting out here, I want you to take your right hand or your right foot, and I want you to tie it to the right leg of your piano bench. No sustain pedal here, and your left foot too, just so you're not tempted. No sustain pedal. Let your hands do the work. Get a nice legato touch by using the natural shocks and struts of your fingers and your arms. Let your fingers stay down as long as possible. Don't lean on that crutch of the sustain pedal. Let's build our legato touch together here without the pedal. Let's try it. 1, 2, 3, and practice with me today. Let's do it. So this takes some faith. We got to get our hand in the right position. We're just going to vamp this, just up and down. By the way, this could also be like a C major 6-9 chord or a C major 7, C major 6 chord. All these voicings work great for C major. Just looping this again, no sustain pedal at all. Let your fingers figure this out. See if you can hear these notes nice and connected without using the sustain pedal. Okay, you're probably hearing me doing something here, and I'll explain it in just a second, because it's part of this sound. So I am rolling my left hand. Because the left hand is only playing one note at a time, we've got all these other fingers down here that we can work to slide or scoop up to our left hand notes. It's a sound you hear quite often. It's a way to put a little juice on it, you know? I'm going like maybe like a minor third down or a major third down or even just a second, major second down. Try it with me. 1, 2, 3, and let's go up, and then on the way down, let's scoop all those bottom notes. That's the sound right there. Going all the way up. Again, thinking A minor 7 here the whole way. All right, isn't that great? So again, no sustain pedal. Keep it nice and connected. We'll do 2 other keys. If you want the PDF, go ahead and check the link out here in the chat or the description. Download the PDF for free. Let's do the key of G minor. Same thing, but down a whole step. So here we have B flat, D, F, G, and B flat, right? These are all notes of a G minor 7 chord, right? I have G, the root, B flat the 3rd, D the 5th, and F the 7th. And then again, whatever's on top, we put in our left hand down below. 4 notes on the right, 1 note on the left. And then we just go up the inversion. So now it's D, F, G, B flat, D. Go up another inversion. F, G, B flat, D, F. And then we're going to go to that 9 and then the 11, right? So A, B flat, D, F, A. Come on, so beautiful. And then up to the 11. C, that's the 11. D, the 5th. F, the 7th. A, the 9th. And then back down. Let's try it. Key of G minor. 1, 2, 3, and let's play. Up to the 9, to the 11, and back down. Again, no sustain pedal here. Let's use the natural legato of our fingers to do the work. Let your ear be the sustain pedal. Just warming up before we get to our chord arrangement. 2 more times. You can scoop if you like. Throw a little salt on it. Bam! You see how this works? That's our locked hand voicings. Let's do one more key. These keys are all relevant to How High the Moon, which is where we're going to end up later in this session. Let's try F minor. Again, it's the same thing, but down a whole step. I've got my 3rd on top, right? Then the root, the 7th, and the 5th. And then again, 4 notes in the right hand. Whatever on top, we play in the left hand an octave below. And we can take this to the inversions with the 5th, then the 7th, and then up to the 9th. Right? Then bar 2 up to the 11th, B flat. So I have B flat, C the 5th, E flat the 7th, G the 9th, and then the 11th again on top. Always with the octave with this. Right? The cool thing about that is then you don't have to play chords every note. But you can kind of fill in some chords here. That's what you hear a lot of the greats do. Let's try it here. F minor 7. Starting on the 3rd. There's the root there, just to hear the sound. Play with me. 1, 2, 3, and. Again, no sustain pedal here. Even if you have a big gap between your quarter notes, which might happen when you have a lot of black keys like this key. If you play this, if you use the sustain pedal too much as you're doing this, you're never going to adjust with your hands. Let your ear hear what's happening. Whew. Again, you can scoop with your left hand. It's only playing one note. It's a little minor 7 arpeggio going all the way up to the 11. Let's do 2 more times. 2, 3, and... Our arpeggio warm-up. What I love about the arpeggio warm-up, I think this is so crucial for practicing these locked hand voicings, is it makes you jump around, right? You have to trust that your hands are going to leave the keys and land on some other keys, which needs to happen if we're going to be able to play these with any kind of confidence and with any kind of feel. Let's move on to a bit of scale warm-up. I have 3 keys for a scale warm-up too. Again, these are all going to help us in our arrangement of How High the Moon, kind of understand how to build these chords. So we're going to do now the 6 diminished scale locked hands. You've seen this if you've seen any Barry Harris videos, I'm sure. This is like famously the most logical way to make not just locked hands, but also drop 2 chords. By the way, all this is available in my course, Block Chords Made Easy, here at Open Studio. You can check that out by going to openstudiojazz.com whenever. But yeah, check that out. Also, there's a link here in the description for PDF. Get the PDF if you want to follow along, especially for the arrangement of How High the Moon. The PDF might be very, very helpful. So back to the 6 diminished scale. So this is a major scale, and it's got an extra tone between the 5th and 6th tones of the scale. So here in G major, right, we have just a G major scale, and then we get to the 5th, that D, there's a chromatic step between D and E. This is the 6th diminished scale. Sometimes called the major bebop scale, although I'm not a fan of that title anymore. I used to be. But I understand now why that can be a little confusing. The reason why this is called the 6th diminished scale is because look at right after the scale part of this notation, check out the chords. We have a G major 6 chord, right? This is if we take these notes and we skip a note of the scale. So we start on G, we skip and we play every other note. We skip this E flat, right? Because that's that half step between. If we skip every note of the 6th diminished scale, we start here G to G with a G major 6 chord, right? Now, here's where it gets just brilliant. If we move this chord up, every note of this chord up that 6th diminished scale, we get this chord, A diminished 7, right? So G 6th, A diminished, 6th diminished. That's where the name comes from, the 6th diminished scale. We have G major 6, and then we have the diminished. Now check it out. Here's how it's even more genius and symmetrical. We move this up the next chord tone. We've got a G major 6 in the next inversion. B, D, E, G, B. That's just G major 6th. Move this up. We've got a diminished in the next inversion, right? Same as A diminished, just a different inversion up. Move that up a chord tone of the 6th diminished scale. It's another G major 6. Move that up. Remember this tone between the 5th and 6th. That's what makes the scale. We've got that diminished, the same diminished chord, just different inversion. These are just 2 chords. The whole way up, it's just a G major 6 and an A diminished, alternating in different inversions up and down. Genius. This is an insane way to just make great sounding melodies harmonized on pretty much any tune. And it's not like you can do this all the time, every time, and it works perfectly, but for like major scale harmony, it works really, really great. It's very solid. And we'll go over that in How High the Moon. But for now, let's just warm up on a couple of these 6 diminished scales. And remember, all you have to think about is like G major 6, A diminished, G major 6, diminished, 6, diminished, 6, diminished. And they're all notes from this scale. It's funny, that extra half step between the 5th and the 6th tone, look at what it gives us if we harmonize it. Again, I'm just skipping every note, playing every other note, and then playing every other note starting on A, and then playing every other note starting on B. Isn't that great? Let's practice it here. Again, just 60 beats per minute. We're just going slow. Shake it out. Take a big deep breath. You might roll your shoulders forward and back. Get those shoulders nice and loose. All the upper back. Lift your heart to your chest. Let's go here. 1, 2, 3, 4. And no sustain pedal. Let your fingers come up off the keys. It's a bit of a leap of faith here. But you need to take that leap. Try it again. 2, 3, and again, 4 notes in the right, 1 note in the left. Beautiful. Whew. Try it again. 2, 3, and. I'm just throwing a D down below there, dropping the D. One more time. 2, 3, 4. You remember that intro from Oscar Peterson that we played at the very start? That's these chords. That's this 6 diminished sound. Let's try another key. How about the key of F? Same concept. Remember how high the moon starts in G, then there's a 2-5 to F, then there's a 2-5 to E flat. So we can hit these major chords here. So I have an F major 6, right? This is an F major 6 diminished chord. Again, a half step between the 5th and 6th tones of the F major scale. So there's a C sharp between C and B flat. And these notes are 4 notes in the right, 1 note in the left, just as it's written here. Again, if we take every other note, we get an F major 6th. If we move these notes up that scale, we get a G diminished, right? Up again, F major 6, G diminished, but a different inversion. It's just 6 diminished, 6 diminished, 6 diminished, all the way up. Let's try it. 2, 3, 4. Again, no sustain pedal. 4 in the right, 1 in the left. And just notice major, diminished. Major 6, diminished. Major 6, diminished. 6, diminished. 6, 2, again, and. 6, diminished. 6, diminished. 6, diminished. 6, diminished. 6, sustain pedal. One more time. 2, 3, and maybe scoop a little bit. It's fun. Awesome. Let's move right into our final key for our scale warm-up here on the 6 diminished E flat major. That's an E flat 6 diminished scale. We've got that extra tone, that half step between the 5th and 6th notes. So it's E flat, F, G, A flat, B natural, C, D is our E flat 6 diminished scale. And then check out the chords. E flat major 6th, F diminished. E flat major 6th, F diminished. E flat major 6, you get the idea. F diminished, major 6, F diminished. There it is. Look at that. Let's try it. 2, 3, 4. Again, 2, 3, 4. Put your legs behind the legs of your piano bench. No sustain pedal. Use your ears for legato. And you might, again, if you're new to this 6 diminished, you might say 2, 3, 4. Major 6 diminished, major 6 diminished, major 6 diminished, major 6 diminished, major 6 diminished. You got it. Isn't that great? You can hear that we can now voice melodies using this scale. One more time here in E flat, and we'll check out the arrangement. 2, 3, 4. Isn't that great? So useful. So I don't even have to sell you on how useful that is. That's just useful. Again, so we will use these now in our chord arrangement of How High the Moon. I encourage you to download the PDF here in the chat or the description to see the whole thing. Free PDF for you today. This is all, by the way, from my course again, Block Chords Made Easy over at OpenStudioJazz.com. Go to OpenStudioJazz.com. I got a ton of courses on there. We got courses by Peter Martin, Jeffrey Keyser. You know the drill. But this is from that. I don't have this particular tune up there, but I have like 5 other tunes, chord arrangements of things like Green Dolphin Street and Fly Me to the Moon. And now we have this, How High the Moon. So again, this is inspired by that Oscar Peterson live recording, but this is a little bit more basic version that we can use to really like nail down some of the basics of block chords, right? So check it out. So here from the start, actually, wait, before I get into it, one thing I want to say about the chord symbols on this chart, right? And when we talk about block chords in general too. So I have here the chords, and these are kind of like the chords from the real book or what you might see in the real book. They're not exactly like the real book, but they're kind of what you would see there. I don't have a chord symbol for every one of my block chords because that's not the point of this chart. I wanted you to see the block chords that you can make over these chords, right? So if we have G major 7 and the melody note is A, which we do have, we can use our 6 diminished scale, which means that we have this A diminished chord to start it out, right? So I didn't want to write A diminished there because we're really, we would, if this was a lead sheet, it would just have, the note A and a G major 7 chord. And I want you to know that on a G major 7 chord, you can use the 6 diminished scale. So you can use this A diminished, resolving to our G major 6. Isn't that hip? So here we have our intro. It's like a D7. It could be like an A minor 7 to D7. We'll just put D7 in parentheses there. And we'll use these block chords to lead into the melody, right? And I'll break it down and then we'll practice a little bit. So we get to our G major 7, right, for the melody. And again, A is the first note of the melody. We can use our 6 diminished scale, and we know that that is 6 diminished for the A, right? So you're thinking like an A diminished chord for the G major 7, but check it out. It resolves quickly enough and beautifully enough that it just sounds great. So this first phrase, isn't that nice? The second phrase. So now we go to our G minor 7 chord. Remember our arpeggio warm-up, we did G minor 7, starting on the 3rd, B flat, D, F, G, B flat. Then our C7, we do exactly what we did with our D7 on the very first bar, but we do it down a whole step. And then again, our F major 7, the first note is G, the second, and we know that's a diminished chord. And it's going to resolve right to the 3rd. Again, diminished, resolving to the 6th. And then check it out. Here in the second stanza, that first bar. Remember I said this is an octave device, and we don't have to voice every single note. So here, we can do some octaves, and then end that phrase with a chord. So these first 6 bars or so would be something like 4-1. And then no chords. This is something you hear Oscar Peterson do all the time, that kind of going between voicing chords and not. I remember when I first started working at Open Studio, transcribing a bunch of Peter Martin, realizing that he did this kind of stuff all the time too. He didn't really think about this as locked hands voicing. He was just playing octaves and putting chords there in between the octaves. So we can systematize this till the cows come home, but the great players, I don't think are organizing their thoughts in this way. I think they're just voicing their octave melodies with these chords. Whatever sounds good can kind of be how we start this process. Now, if you're like me and you like to put things in tiny little boxes and organize your thoughts, you can, of course, systematize as much as you want. But we can just know that octaves are totally cool. Now, our F minor 7, I just have a little fill here that I think is nice and swinging. Now, B flat 7 here. So on this B flat 7 chord, we're going to go straight to the E flat 6 diminished scale. You can use the 6 diminished scale on the 5 chords. So check that out, that B flat 7 melody, right? D, E flat, F. We can use our E flat 6 diminished because these tones are a D diminished, which is a great B flat 7 flat 9 chord, to our E flat major 7. Which will play a major 6, right? The 6th diminished chord. Our A minor 7, right? Check that out. 7, we played that in the warm-up. Then our G minor, we're going to use a G minor 6 with that natural 6, that E natural in there. Then to our A half diminished, which just holds over, but we have our D7 here, again, just a diminished chord. And then again, our A minor 7 down here in the last stanza, second bar, A minor 7, D7. This is just the G 6 diminished, right? Then B minor 7, we're just going to voice it. B flat 7 is a diminished voicing, right? D diminished. Yeah. Then in the second page, it does this, it does our little, but on the A, I wanted to kind of switch it up, right? I didn't want to do A diminished, so I put in G diminished with the 9 in there. So I have like a G diminished 7, B flat, D flat, E. Again, following my ears, I thought this sounded cool. There's no real reason why it should or shouldn't be there. I just think it sounds good. And then some octaves. Then a nice little, again, our C. And then again here, on F major 7 with the G in the melody, I put an F diminished, because I know that resolves good to the F major. Then some octaves. Then a nice little, then again, B flat 7, this is our E flat 6 diminished chord. Whew. Then here, our E flat major 7. This is something I'm stealing from the great Glenn Zaleski. He's been putting these 5 chords in his videos under the ones. Glenn's so good. He's so thoughtful. But here's like a B flat 7 flat 9 chord over E flat, resolving to E flat. And then again here on our A minor 7, D7, leading up to B minor 7, it's just G6 diminished. Now for the last note, I did this Phrygian thing, this F minor 6/9 over G, and then a little D7 alt. That's for me and you. That's just because we like it, right? No reason not to do that. Let's try this super slow. Slower than that. Slower than that. We're going to go really slow. There's no shame in practicing things slow, especially for the first time. So here's beats 2 and 4, right? This is the hi-hat. 1, 2, 1. 4, 1. 1, 2, 2. Here's our E flat, A minor 7, G minor, G major 7, 1. Dun, dun, dun. G minor, C7. Oh, come on. Come on. Thanks, Glenn. 2, 3, 4, 1. You know what I mean? You know how we do it around here. If this is the kind of stuff that you want to work on more, hit the like and subscribe button. Let's do this one more time. We're going to ramp it up, like minimally ramp it up, not that fast. 2, 3. Again, this is like the hi-hat, right? Beats 2 and 4. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. 4, 1. 1. Come on. 2, 2. This is not bad, actually. 1. Boom, ba, boom. 2. G minor. Okay. F minor. B flat 7. That slays me. Just G6 diminished here. Isn't that awesome? One note here, second stanza, actually no, first stanza, third bar, that G minor 7. It's just a little fill that I have. Again, because we're doing 4 notes in the right and 1 note in the left, we can kind of play around with the left hand, filling up space. So this could be like super clean, or you can fill what I have written there. But you see how it doesn't really get in the way of what's going on the right hand. Let's do this one more time. We're going to work it up. Here's 55 beats per minute. This is respectable here. Again, no sustain pedal. Do not be afraid to lift your hands off the keyboard, and do not be afraid to make mistakes here. Stop, metronome. One thing I want to talk about with this, we were talking about this earlier in my live daily guided practice session at Open Studio, but we are not practicing here this content just to practice this content. We're practicing the how we do things, right? So we want to practice this in a light, easy breezy, fun way. At least I do, because when I perform this, I want this to feel light and easy. And like when I do this, people don't think I'm cringing and trying really hard and gritting my teeth and turning red and veins throbbing out of my forehead. I want to seem like I'm just here, like I'm Oscar Peterson. I showed up in my tux with my little bow tie, and I'm just here for the party. Hey, can I play some block chords? You guys mind if I play some block chords? And I just rattle off these awesome voicings, right? So think about the how you practice just as much as the what you practice. The content it's fine, but it's not the most important thing. The most important thing is how we're doing it. So practice that. Do not be afraid to make mistakes. Again, that's just the content. Practice it in a way that feels comfortable and good and that is correct. So again, if you are worried about the content, maybe you're leaning on the sustain pedal, you're gritting your teeth, everything sounds very tried, but if you're thinking about, I want this to be easy and nice and beautiful, then it doesn't matter if you're making too many mistakes. And ironically, what happens when you let go of that, you tend to make less mistakes. That's kind of like the ironic part of the whole thing. So let's be easy. Let's have fun. Let's try it again. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, and done. See what I mean? Boom, bum, boom, G minor. Have fun. You just showed up in your tux. 1. You mind if I play these block chords? I mean, it doesn't get any more fun than that. That's as fun as you can be. And we're going to listen to the rest of Oscar Peterson's solo on here just for a bit of inspiration as we go out. I encourage you to download the PDF in the chat or the description. And as always, you can go to openstudiojazz.com to check out everything we're doing over there, including Block Chords Made Easy course, including the daily guided practice session that I've talked about here. We're having a good time. We're practicing every day. What else we got to do? The world's opening up, but we're still grinding. So join us over here at openstudiojazz.com to do the work. Okay, one last thing. Before we do that, thank you everybody for your practice today. Again, if you liked what you saw here, click the like button or the subscribe. We're going to go out with the rest of Oscar Peterson's solo from How High the Moon live at the Stratford Shakespearean Festival. Herbie Ellis on guitar, Ray Brown on the bass. Enjoy. It doesn't get any more ridiculously good than what you're about to see.